Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Chris Lukes, and I'm one of the speakers tonight. And welcome to Using Games as Prompts for Discussions of Information and Technology Literacy. This presentation is brought to you by the E-Learning Consortium of Colorado, otherwise known as ELK, and the ISTE Games and Simulations Network. And also, some of the things we're going to talk about, actually, we have visited previously in Metagame Book Club, but some is going to be really new. And this is the Metagame Book Club in this Games and Social Issues series. Besides myself, we have Kay. And we have Trish. And yes, everyone here is is purposely on a time delay. Go ahead and move on. For those of you watching, there is a Padlet. It was sent out with all the materials, and feel free to hop on that Padlet. I will be moderating it, so ask your questions there, and we'll go ahead and I will share it with the rest of the speakers. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and we will go forward and turn it over to Kay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. This is the second in our rapid responses for current events. So last week, what we brought you really had a lot to do with what was going on as far as the immigration ban that was going on. First of all, we had Inside the Japanese American Internment, and this is an interactive fiction that you could go ahead and play with your students. The other thing we looked at is a much more recent, The Migrant, and this is about a Syrian refugee and the choices that he and his family would have to make as they were migrating from Syria into Europe. So both of these we thought were really timely. We thought you could go ahead and you could bring these into your class, and you making the decision, of course. We also made mentions of Papers, Please. Now, this is a game by Lucas Pope, and this is a popular game. Your students might mention it, but we don't really feel that this is something that will help much when it comes to understanding the immigrant or the refugee experience, but we wanted to put it out there. And our topic was games in the affective domain. And what I mean by the affective domain is there's 3 domains of learning. You hear about cognitive all the time, okay? That is Bloom's taxonomy. That is you constantly talking about, oh, need to have that action verb. Now, the other 2 domains are the affective domain and the psychomotor domain. But when we talked about these games last time, we talked about the affective domain because we really wanted to look at activities, these interactive fiction games that could really help us with attitudes of awareness, how to listen and respond, and to understand multiculturalism. So today, our topic is slightly different. We won't be talking so much about the affective domain. Instead, what we're going to be talking about is using games as a discussion prompt. And while last week we were looking at the affective domain, this week, here's what we're going to look at it. We're going to look at these games as a prompt, as a motivational model. And we're going to be looking at Keller's ARC's motivational model. And what we're really looking for is the A and the R, to get the attention and to have relevance. So the games that we are showing you today are ones that you can show up in the front of your classroom. You can do it. Now, for me, I have a lot of small discussions and then large group discussions when I'm inside the classroom. So for me, I would bring this up as part and also to lead a discussion rather than, doing the PowerPoint slides. So what we want to show you real quickly is Games for Change. Okay, this is a place where you can go and you can go ahead and you can take a look at their games. All of these games, like I said, are good for discussion prompts. We're not going to guarantee that we're not going to guarantee anything like these games are the best games ever, or they're just perfect, or you don't have to worry about teaching your students because these games will teach your students for you. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is how to gain attention and make sure that they have a relevance. So what I have up here is the website for Games for Change. Really easy. All you need to do is click on the games right there. They are more than willing to have you critique or review their games, but they also have a list of games. Now, these games are games that are trying to deal with the effective domain and educate. At the same time, when they list these at Games for Change, it doesn't mean that they're a free game. You might have to purchase the game, but it's a place to go ahead and take a look. And you'll see there's a couple different categories there. I will tell you that the two categories that we will be focusing on today are the civics and also the news games. And I'm just going to click on news games really quickly to get you into the mood. And some of the things that show up here are climate defense, Syrian journey, and then here's the Republia Times, and that's the game that Chris is going to go over with us. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, and I am going to let Chris go ahead and continue.
All right. So the Republia Times. So this is a interesting little game, and I'm going to go ahead and share it on my screen so you can see a little bit of live play, because that's always fun. There we go. So it says, welcome to the Republia Times. You are the new editor-in-chief. The war with Antigua is over, and the rebellion uprising has been crushed. Order is slowly returning to Republia. The public is not loyal to the government. It is your job to increase their loyalty by editing the Republia Times carefully. Pick only stories that highlight the good things about Republia and its government. You have 3 days to raise the public loyalty to 20. As a precaution against influence, we are keeping your wife and child in a safe location. So, what's interesting about this game is this is done by Lucas Pope, and some of you might be from, that name might sound familiar because he's actually the individual who developed Papers, Please. And also, if you participated in the summer 2015 Metagame Book Club, you might remember John Spike discussing it as part of the Dystopian Arcade. So go ahead and get started. So we have our news feed here, and we have our outline. So let's see what happens. Nope, that's not good. Defected. Must increase the states. Hey, okay, weather. Weather's not really that threatening. Hey, look, we went ahead and we foiled. Our athletes dominated. And there's really not a lot left. You can see the little timers running through here. And the nice thing about this is it does expand. Hey, our crops increased. More corn than air. And then we go ahead and we end the day. It's enough good news for the day. Let's see what happened. Hey, I increased my loyalty to 12. I got 50 new readers. Woo! I'm going to go to sleep. And what happened while I was sleeping? I made good progress. I keep working towards the loyalty of 20 or above by the end of day 3, and my family lives normally under our care. Larger articles have more influence on your readers' loyalty. So you're getting a feel for what this game's about. Well, who doesn't like a dance fest? Income relocation scheme contributes 20 million to schools, proves the system works. Friendly wedding. Who needs weather when there's rebellions to be crushed? Broad satisfaction. So this is a banner day for the Republia. I'll speed it up. Hey, I got loyalty over 20. I got 320 readers, 312 readers now. Got some more things here. Uh-oh, what's this red stuff going on? So you can see that it's going over the layout. You're picking the different pieces. You're being very selective about what you're supposed to do because, after all, you want your family and kids going on. There's a lot of interesting pieces coming on here as far as what you're doing. We got more people to our borders. All right, running out of time. We'll go ahead and hit it again.
Okay, and so the thing about this would be a discussion prompt. So you wouldn't just play this. What you would be doing with the students, with your students, you'd have it on the front board. Okay, you could have the student making a decision. They could get input from all the other students in class, and you could be thinking about what kind of questions as these things show up. You could ask students about, well, what relevant things that are you seeing that are familiar that you're seeing these days like this? When you're looking at news or Facebook, or if you're looking at Twitter, are you seeing these positive things? Or are you seeing these negative things? Who's going ahead and controlling what the different mediums are? So these are all things, again, like I said before, to actually increase discussion and be discussion prompts. So it wouldn't be that you're just playing the game. It would be that you'd be stopping and thinking about, okay, so what question would I ask the students now? And do the students have mobile devices? Am I going to have them look things up? And when I have them look things up, are they going to Facebook? Are they actually reading a news story? And it's a great chance to talk about information literacy.
Well, exactly. And another nice thing about this game is it does sort of lightly touch on how you go about filtering what sort of information you want to share. If you're someone that's doing it, someone who's monitoring, or if you're an editor of an informational source, so you can actually see about, talk about the discretion that you're using. In this case, in this game, the reason why I'm talking about nice things is because I've got family members who are being threatened. But the thing, and that's totally possible in an authoritarian or in a non-democratic system. So that's the nice thing about the Republia. What's interesting about Republia is you saw that little red piece that popped up in the chat, and actually what that is that is the resistance that is going ahead. And it's the resistance portion of it. And basically, they're here to help. They say, the first message you get is, please hear me. I am Christoph, leader of the rebellion, and we need your help. And basically, they say they can help your family, help you. And so the whole idea behind this is that you try to find a balance of good and bad things to try to please two different masters. And you can also talk a lot about the stress if someone was actually in this position. If there's on one hand, the fearless leader is all about, hey, I've got your family over here, and if you want to keep them safe, you better say only nice things about me. And then you also have the rebellion there who's also saying, wait a minute, we need your help to sabotage. And we can go, but hey, if you trust us, you don't know who we are, but if you trust us, we can save your family. And but for proof that you're loyal to us, you need to sacrifice and go ahead and start reducing the public's opinion of the fearless leader. And what's interesting is as you play, if you play the good person, if you play the loyal person to your fearless leader, eventually what happens is no good news shows up at all. And so the only thing you can post is the weather. And you get this little note I got over here, which is, we've reviewed your file. Your performance is appreciated. The great and honorable leader has decided that printed paper is old technology, and the Ministry of Media will be moving in to focus on online communications. Your service is no longer required. Your family has been eliminated, and you have been reassigned. So even if you're the loyal subject, unfortunately, your family is still eliminated. So so it's one of those games where you can play. There's a lot of different scenarios, and it's also another thing you can do with your class is having them come up with strategies. How long can they last? So by playing the good and loyal subject, I only lasted 11 days, and then my family got eliminated, and I got reassigned. So those are things that you can go ahead and play with. Is talking about as far as what form of editorial editing goes on when it comes to the piece. And it goes back to looking at that information and technology literacy. If you know that this is the process of how someone, this is a very simplified version of how people make decisions on what information to move forward and what information not to move forward on. It's a really good discussion talking about ways to think about bias and looking at your credibility of your sources and going, are they only playing one side? Are they giving a fair assessment? Are they providing both sides with equal opportunity to discuss to share their opinions and viewpoints, or are they shaded one way or the other? And so that's the type of things you can really do, have a really good, strong, robust discussion with Republia. So it's a very simple game. Lucas did a wonderful job. And it's one of those things. It's a very quick game to play too. You saw how fast we can click through it and how fast we can go through the days. So we already played it for maybe a handful of minutes. We've already gone to day 4. So it's one of those things you can do a lot of different iterations of it, and you can also go ahead and play around with it. Now, the one thing I did see is that there is a way to pause the game. So if you guys want to have the discussion, all you need to do is just click off of the actual website, and that's what you see, this little arrow on the screenshot here, that it has a little grayed out and there's a little white arrow on top of it. What it does is that actually freezes the game. And then whenever you want to go back to it, you just click on your website and then you click the arrow and it'll go back to playing. So it's a really nice way to freeze things, to have that good discussion with your students, and then get started back up and move forward, and then have them, like I said, you can have them pick, you can have them do different things. It's a way for them to process it, and you can move at whatever speed your students want to move at. And the nice thing about it is you've got your reinforcers here down at the bottom. You can see what your loyalty is. You can see the number of readers. And if you're going to be loyal to the fearless leader, again, your goal is to peg that loyalty to the most of the positive, and to get as many readers reading your subscription as possible. I think at the time of this, I ended up with 1,000 readers, but the day before, day 10, I had like 1,500 readers. And like I said, I could only good thing to publish was the weather. And I lost 500 readers that day because there wasn't enough content. So those are things that you can see, and then you play around with it. Again, it's a very simple game. It's very easy, drag and drop, and it is weighted that the bigger thing you use, the bigger font you use here, or the size of the article, the more emphasis, the more loyalty you can get from that. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Trish to talk about the game that she went ahead and played.
Okay, I went to the iCivics website, iCivics.org, and I played their games. If you could advance the next slide. This is a website that teaches you about how to be involved civically. It covers everything from volunteering for a cause that you want to be a part of, to how to be involved in your community, either by being involved civically through jury duty and volunteering, or starting your own nonprofit, how to be a leader, how to be a legislator, or how to run for the president, how to serve as the president, to the judiciary, to where you can look at Supreme Court cases, or you can even argue. There's a game called Argument Wars that actually argues like Brown versus the Board of Education. You take the roles of the people who are on either side. Next slide, please.
And Trish, this is the group that Sandra Day O'Connor is involved with, correct?
Yes, and it has a lot of, every game is geared towards teaching students, particularly I'd say the lowest you could go would be about 4th grade all the way through middle school, high school. some of it might be a little too difficult for upper elementary, particularly the cases involving the legal system of arguing a case. They might have trouble understanding a lot of the lingo. But the games I played, like Immigration Nation, the one I'm going to talk about now, I could see a fourth or fifth grader playing this because it gives them a view of what it takes to get into the United States. I think a lot of times we just assume people should get in, but there are rules. And so when people are arriving in the United States, you sit there and these little boats come in. And if you go to the next slide, when little boats come in, you get these little scenarios. And the first one says, I'm an expert at all things American, the food, the music, the pickup trucks. I love it all. My friends will tell you I'm the most American German guy they know. I'll get along great in the U.S. Well, if you read this, for someone our age, for an adult, we're thinking, wow, that's kind of silly. But for a kid, they would look at that and they have to stop and think, okay, has he been born in the United States? Are his parents from the United States? Is he going to work here? Is he seeking refuge? Is he getting married? He's not doing anything. So then you have to click the little red hand and say, nope, you can't come in. And so you keep getting these scenarios of people trying to get into the United States from someone who's coming as a refugee. And there's even one that comes in who is probably a war criminal, and you turn him away even though it kind of seems like he's a refugee, but you make the right decision. And you just keep making these decisions day after day after day, and it just goes on and on. Next slide, please.
And this is something that easily, like we said before, it could be on the front of the board, and you could talk through with the class and have the students in groups or individually answering and discussing these things.
Right, and as you can see on this slide now, when you've got like 4 to 6 votes coming in at one time, and you're having to read the thing of why they want to come in, and then you have to decide, yes, you come in, no, you don't come in, you come in, no, you don't come in. And it reminded me of you talking about that game Papers, Please, of the person just kind of getting, it makes them happy just stamping the papers.
Yeah, Sherry was discussing that last week.
And it's the same kind of thing. You're kind of sitting here and you're kind of going, yay, you can come in. No, you can't. Nope, not you. Nope, not you. But yes, you. Yes, you. But you have to be aware and be cognizant. And it does tell you as you let someone in, like someone who's coming into work, it says how long it takes them to become a United States citizen on their own once they've been here. So for someone who gets married, I think it said it takes 5 years after they get married that they can become a U.S. citizen on their own. Or the person who seeks refugee status, they can become a U.S. citizen in 6 years. So, and once again, and all during this time, you're deciding who's banned, who's not. So that is Immigration Nation. And I think it would be a good game for middle schoolers, upper elementary to play, because I really think that it would give them a viewpoint, an eye view of what it takes to get into the U.S.
And quite honestly, them playing a game, they might remember it more than if they had just read it, or if you sent them to an internet article. But the thing is, the whole time that they're doing this, you can have them on the internet looking up the facts, looking up the statutes, and things like that. And again, great discussion, great information literacy here.
Right. And then the next game is called Activate. And in this game, you start out with your selection. You can help out at an animal shelter, you can stop bullying at your high school, you can help your family, or you can clean up your local park. I just picked stop bullying, and the first task I had to do was put up stop bullying posters on the halls of my high school. And you have to get a certain amount of posters up before you can move on to your next task. So you're slapping posters up on the wall, and then when you get enough, you move on to, next slide. You see here, you're going to spread awareness. So you stop bullying at your high school. So now friends have noticed your actions, and you're ready to start doing things in the community. You start out in your high school, and then you move out into your local community. And the thing that I did is I had a bake sale. And this is where my game playing skills were not the best, because you have to kind of throw the baked goods at the people when you see the little baked good above their head, and then you have to catch the money as they're throwing their money at you. But when you earn enough money, then you move on to the next level. But at the same time, you also, while you are doing the bake sale, you have two people working for you, and one is doing a newspaper column, an opinion piece, and he's trying to get support through the newspaper while you're doing the bake sales and raising awareness and raising money. And then move on to the next slide. And you're in your little house, and yay, after that, now you've moved on to not just doing anti-bullying, now you've moved into after-school violence prevention and helping kids stay out of trouble, because if they're not in trouble, they're less likely to bully. And then you're hitting the state level where you're having to meet with legislators, and you are still trying to raise money. You're having walkathons, and then you hit the national level. And it's just a progression. And you have tasks that you have to do that earn you up to the next level, just like any kind of game. But at the same time, you're seeing the kind of work it takes for a movement or a passion or whatever you want to call this, that it's not just someone getting out and making a sign and walking along the street. There are other things that have to be worked upon. You have to work with the politicians to get them to go along with your ideas, to want to promote your ideas on the state level and the national level. And then you have people who have to be out garnering favor with the legislators or with the businesses. And you have to be trying to raise money to support your cause. And it's all tied in together, and it goes right in with the civics idea, because it's so tied in with the government now.
And you actually doing the, even if you had your students play it first and then you doing it, you can slow it down. So it's not just about okay, let me throw the cupcakes at you. Instead, it's like think about all the hard work that you're going to have to do here, right, and what's at the next level, and what's the pattern, what's the system that you have to deal with.
Exactly, and it goes fast because it's a game, and I think the way they have designed these games is they are to take 30 minutes or less so that they fit within the parameters of a class period. But, you can always explain, well, this doesn't happen this fast. There are many hurdles you have to go through if you're trying to further your cause or move your idea along. That's why I kind of, one of the things I like about this is that it kind of feels like you're jumping through hoops,
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that is a lot of what life is like, particularly when you're dealing in the government sector. It's a constant patting backs and glad handing. And I mean, some people like that. And I mean, that's what they're geared for. But even, I'm didn't play it, but I'd be interested to see what it's like. And it says, so you want to be president. And so you have to go out on the campaign trail and do the things that it takes to do to become president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another game to where you act as president and you have to make the decisions the president makes. And so anybody can see going through this, these are not easy things. They're kind of draining because it's a constant barrage of things you have to do and keep doing over and over and over again in order to get to your desired goal.
Which is again, I'm just thinking you could have students read, 3 pages about it, another student who went through and did after school anti-bullying, but I think there's certain parts that could really make more of an impact than them reading, say that short story on it.
Exactly, because this you're more actively involved in. You're engaging different parts of your brain other than just your reading muscle, because you're having to think about multiple things all at once, and so it's a little bit more riveting than just reading a text or watching a video or anything like that, which is a very passive thing. This is very much a more actively engaged thing that your ability to get where you want to go is entirely up to you, and you're the one who drives it. And so if your organization is going to be a success, then you're going to have to work it out. And even if it is just playing this game, you're going to have to put forth the effort and make the right decisions, because there's decisions made all through the process. It's not just given to you that you're going to do this now and it will succeed. No, you have to make choices on what's the best choice for your organization.
And you've been judging debates for how long?
4 years.
For 4 years. And could this be prep for your middle schoolers who are thinking about doing debating once they get into high school?
Well, I would think that if they went and looked at any of the games that had to do with the argument wars, to where you're having to look at two sides of an argument, I think those would be great prep for a middle schooler who possibly wants to do speech and debate, or just debate when they get to high school. Because debate is not just you arguing. Debate is taking both sides of the argument and thoroughly researching it and coming up with a case, an outline of why that particular view is the correct view. Because when you walk into a debate tournament, or when you're walking into a debate session, you don't know which side you're on until you walk through the door. So you have to be prepared to passionately defend either the pro or the con, whichever you get. So it's a good idea if, instead of just seeing an argument from one side, you try to see the argument from all sides so that you're fully informed on it.
Very cool, and thanks for reviewing them for us.
Oh, they were fun.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about Newsgames, okay? When we're looking over here at Games for Change, they do have a category for Newsgames, and I will pull that up. I will tell you, Chris, the one that Chris reported on is there, and there are some other ones. These, I looked at them. These, I really believe, are best for discussions. I don't think that they necessarily show patterns or systems as well as the ones that that Trish was talking about. But I'd kind of like to show you. Another one. Now, Newsgames is a term. It is a genre, even. Okay, and this is from the Newsgaming conference that happened in Minnesota about 5 years ago. Newsgames were a bit more popular about 5 years ago, but you're still seeing them around. But the idea with a news game is that it's not trivializing, like it says, civic engagement. It's more of taking the form of traditional storytelling and going past that and going past broadcast journalism and looking at the interconnections between global and local dynamics. Okay, and the reason why to put these things in games, yes, you can read about it and you should be able to read the news and be able to understand it, but at the same point in time, you'll see the quote there. These games offer journalists an opportunity to stop short of the final rendering of a typical news story where everything has to get so wrapped up, and instead allows people to see the behaviors and the dynamics. Because most of the time when a journalist has a deadline, most of the time a journalist has to wrap it up in a certain amount of time. So with a news game created by journalists or using journalist principles, you can see more of a story. And there's one in particular that I want to talk about, and it's really actually fun. And this is one that I would even say think about doing. It's called, and it is #hacked. Okay. Now this is the promo video. I don't think it'll play over there, but it is actually this is done from a report from Al Jazeera. And Chris, you can click on it, and we'll see. we'll at least be able to see the visuals. But Hacked is based on a report and a documentary made by a journalist for Al Jazeera. And what she went and investigated was actually hackers. And she started investigating after the Arab Spring and the attempted revolution in Syria. And she had to go collect everything she could for her piece. And this game is based on her video, on her notes, and her pictures. So it's a lot like what we've been showing you before, those interactive fiction games or activities where you get something in text and then you stop, and then what you go ahead and you do is you go ahead and make a decision because it's a branching storyline. So what we have here up on this is Hacked, and I'm going to go now to my screen. So this is the game, and we're not going to go that far into it, but I will tell you there's definitely an authenticity to this. You go here, you go ahead and click on Next. Now for logging in, you can go ahead and you can make your own username, and you can come back and you can save your progress, or you can just go in anonymously. And this is all, you can also do this on a mobile device. So I'm just going to go in anonymously, waiting for it to load a little bit. But think about this as a fully fleshed out news game. Okay, so lines of investigation. So which one do I want to do? Do I want to do the start of the Syrian cyber war? Yeah, let's start there. So this is the actual journalist who did this. She says, "Are you ready? We have a tight deadline for your report on Syrian cyber war. You have 5 days to get the maximum amount of information, but be careful when you collect your data. Some of it is infected with malware and viruses. Getting hacked costs time and can make you miss your deadline. When you submit your report in the end, we'll see how well you've done, okay?" Click ready. So I'm ready. She says good. And then she says, "I recommend you pass by the office so I can explain how everything is done." So now instead of health points, instead of what adds pressure here is that timer. Do I want to go straight away, no time cost, or do I want to take the hour? Let's say I want to go fast. Now, if you're doing this in a classroom, you could definitely have the students debate each one. You can make them vote on it, but this, I think, is well developed enough that even at a high school level, definitely, and even at a college level, you could give this as an assignment in a face-to-face or an online class. You're saving 1 hour, but guess what? She says, was that really the right decision? I'm going to click yes. So here's my notifications. You have 5 virtual days. Keep track of time. Collect at least 60% of available data to complete your report. Run the virus scan in the menu before opening links to avoid getting hacked. And then each hack costs time and will make you miss your deadline. And I'm going, then the next part of it is really where it gets into a news game. This is where I decide to go on, and she starts telling me some information. Not only that, I'm getting the video of the information, which is really great. And so you see how this interactive fiction is happening? We have the branching storyline, but we're also having the videos pop up. And I'm thinking that a lot of our students could even consider doing something like this. Now, how will I find one? I need an original activist. How do I make contact? Okay, I will give my name or I will not. I'm going to say I'm not going to give my name. He's going, Good luck with you two. Here's your producer, and he can help you. And you go, okay. We wait a little bit. He's originally from Syria and it can help me find the right people for your interview. So think about this. Think about an international journalist really has to rely on someone else and sources. And he's saying, let's speak separately. Look for my new tab with my messages. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to end what we're showing right here, and I'm going to go back over onto this slide. But when it comes to your students thinking about whether news is fake or not, whether or not something's relevant, and also how we've suddenly got the discussion of things called alternative facts, this is something that really works well, at least with our students. We tell them about the CRAAP test. And yes, because it's called that, they actually remember it. So again, we're going back to Keller's ARC's model of motivational design. Again, the CRAAP test, why? Because they remember it. And then it's relevant. But anyway, the CRAAP test is where students, when they're dealing with an informational source, anything from a tweet, which we are dealing a lot more with tweets these days, to something that is coming from a library database, from a peer-reviewed journal, these are the things that students have to look at. They have to look at the currency. Think about the timeliness of this. If it was written in 1920 and it's a medical article, it might not have the currency that you need, even though it was peer-reviewed. Relevance. Is it important to what you're investigating? When we're looking at the start of the Syrian cyber war, it might be really interesting to know something like the cuisine of Syria, but at the same time, is it really relevant? Next thing, who is the authority? What's the source? Now, the producer in Hacked was going to go find me some of the original activists. So speaking to them as an authority would be great. An interview, quoting an interview from them would be great. Now, the next part, the accuracy, the truthfulness, reliability, or correctness of it. This is something that we've been hearing bombarded a lot lately, okay? When we're hearing what is fake news, what are alternative facts. So this is something that we will need to really be talking to our students about. And this is something, while the students are playing these games, you could absolutely have up. Now, this last one, the purpose or the reason for doing this. And the purpose is there any bias? Why is this person writing this? Why did this person say this? Why did the person go ahead and do that? So hold on just a second. And And Cloud, do you think that you could go ahead and you could use the CRAAP test with students at your level?
Oh, sorry, I was getting confused by the little buttons. What I was sitting here thinking is we were developing a digital citizenship course for K through 2, 3 through 5, middle school and high school for our district this past summer. And one of the things that we were looking at was looking at information, and we didn't use those that we didn't use that acronym, but it's the same thing. It's like you look at when was the article written, because this was even before fake news became a thing. And so we were looking at helping students to know what they were getting off the internet or what they were getting from a search was actually good information for them to use for schoolwork. So is it timely? I mean, something that was written 60 years ago probably is not going to be something that is very good for you to use present day, unless you're specifically talking about that period of time in history. Is it relevant? I mean, as you said, Syrian cuisine is lovely, but what does it have to do with what's going on? Same thing if you're talking about yellow fever and talking about a malaria epidemic or whatever, you don't want to be talking about something else. The source, does the source have a vested interest in presenting that particular viewpoint? These are things, and I mean, every one of these is so much part of just digital citizenship and understanding the information literacy of understanding you need to look at where something's coming from to make sure that what you're getting is really what you think you're getting. Because kids particularly, which we all do, we Google something and we just take the first one that comes up, which is not always the best idea. We've had to show our children that you need to look down, because a lot of times the first ones have purchased that position. So you need to move on down and look for someone that is a credible source. Do they have a reason for wanting to do that? And this is, and what we're discovering, and that I've been talking to the people that we were making the course with, is that we really need to integrate fake news into the digital citizenship course, because it's just another level of filtering. Our kids need to learn to perform as they are being bombarded with all this information these days.
Oh yeah, and knowing what clickbait is, also going ahead and knowing about rankings on pages and why certain things show up when they do. And all of this that we've been talking about today, as we did last time, we're talking a broad interpretation of the ludic fallacy, meaning that we know these are games. We know that we're bringing up topics that relate to real life situations, but at the same time, you're the educator. You go ahead and jump in there and you talk to them about how this game is not a perfect model of what's going on in real life. This is to discuss, and it's like a book. It's to read and to go ahead and get ideas. And although I said we weren't going to do the games in the affective domain, I'm just shoving this in here real quickly. The other thing when it comes to news games, and there's also been discussion of immersive journalism. And really what's happening now is virtual reality is being looked at by different newspapers as a way to do media. In the fall of 2015, the New York Times sent out not only the newspaper, but also sent out Google Cardboard. And what they had people do was watch travel through a Syrian refugee camp. And the real reason to do that, it was about the affective domain. It was more than just reporting the facts. It was to immerse people in the story and in the experience. So we'll be seeing more of this. Okay, so our closing thoughts, these games are prompts for us. We think they're prompts for discussion. Interactive fiction rules, especially in things like this, okay? You can definitely give your students an assignment that starts with a game prompt and ends with a project-based learning. This and last week are only rapid responses to current events. And we're just trying to get that information out there and have the discussion, because we're not seeing a lot of discussion about current events in any kind of depth or through any kind of critical lens these days. We're seeing a lot of this in the social media for education. We're seeing a lot of the same. And as much as I love Minecraft, and as much as it's great to give your students some Google Cardboard and have them look at VR, what's really happening in the world and what's the kind of discussions we need to be talking to them about, no matter where you live in the world and no matter what your political affiliation. How can we really get our students, our kids, ready for the experiences that are happening in the world? Again, create your own news games. We are so pro educators and students creating their own games. 2015, The Guardian, and The Guardian is over in the UK, but they decided to do a news game jam where they got a bunch of reporters around and they tried to create news games. If you're looking for a topic for a game jam, why not this? I mean, I'm sorry, this is so much better than getting a make and hooking it up to a banana. Have your students do something relevant, okay? And then we're winding up for the end. So again, we'd like to thank the eLearning Consortium of Colorado, ISTE Games and Simulations Network. And this is what we did today, using games as prompts for discussion of information and technology literacy. And yes, we did it. We talked fake news and alt facts, and we're hoping more people will talk about that. And one thing to end this with is I want to say, at the Metagame Book Club, we believe in science. we believe in real facts. And we hope that that's paramount for you in talking about things with your students. And we'd just like to say goodbye and thank you for watching. And don't forget the CRAAP test, okay?